After that moment of exercise, we now get into the serious matters. Well, we're not saying exercise is not serious. We all know it is very, very important. That is on Morning Cafe. And still on Morning Cafe, let's discuss matters held in the country. A lot of adjustments that are happening in this sector. Even worse, that declaration by the EACC, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that indeed it's one of the most corrupt sectors in the country is worrying, especially at a time when we're struggling to make sure that we attain that aspect of health, and proper health for everybody. We're talking about universal health care or universal health coverage. It is one thing, and so we'll be engaging specialists in the health sector, but of importance also those ones that sit, as watchdogs on the sector of health, and importantly also a legislator who is going to, or legislator who is going to help us as well decipher on what is happening at the level of Parliament, that is in the Health Committee. Allow us to get into that conversation shortly, but for now we'll briefly take a look at the papers and then as well take a look at the stories of the day. My name is Linda Alela and this is Morning Cafe. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47KE. Also later, that is towards the last hour of the program, we'll be getting into that aspect of social matters and we speak to the boy child. We'll be having those ones that are boy child and perhaps have taken their time to study and understand them, and they're asking this important question: do the men really know their worth? We'll be getting to that, so keep the questions coming and we'll be joining you, or perhaps they will be joining you to enlighten you on this. Call your boys, call your men. It is important that we have this conversation. So the Standard newspaper, the People Daily, as well as the Daily Nation are the papers that we have this morning. What is on the front page of the Standard newspaper on this 18th day of May? Furious Ruto, warning shot in cabinet talks. We all know that most of the Tuesdays, there is that cabinet conversation with the president, perhaps just to look at how the week or the previous week has been and, traverse to what is likely to happen and what are the blueprints, what are the plans, what are the policies set aboard to make sure that the ministries align to the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza government. And yes, President William Ruto is tough in this time around. And of course, one of the CSs as well saying that, well, it's not been all rosy for them. And, they had just to keep silent, listen to the president speak tough and saying that he is not going to entertain these cases of corruption, immediately or a day after he had to lose some of his PSs and also very important officials in the health sector because of a corrupt activity. And this is not new to the health sector. It's been a case that has been there for quite a long time. So to get it to continue is one thing that wonders very many. Just what would it take to sanitize the health sector is one of the conversations that we'll be having this morning alongside the specialists that I have said. And we allow you to, drop the comments or the questions. We'll be getting back to look into that. Funding delays, counties engage shutdown Ligia. A story captured on the county level. That is a story captured on page 18 of the Standard newspaper. They have cried foul as to, the delay of disbursement of funds to the level of the counties. And even what it is that is disbursed is not enough to manage the activities there. We are talking about the high cost of living. We're talking about services to the people that is at the level of the ground and, addressing the pending bills and numerous others, other cases that are supposed to be dealt with by the governors. And so the governors say that if the country or if the treasury is not going to make these necessary adjustments, they will be left with no choice but to shut down devolution. President William Ruto, in his address to journalists, says that he believes in devolution and his government is going to make sure that devolution then is a success. That's basically around 10 years into it, and many questions arise. This also, as the members of county assemblies say, that they would want to have more monies. Otherwise as well, they're going to run the counties to a stall. That is a story on page 18. As I have said, we'll be looking at that as we continue with the broadcast. Spy master bows out 16 months earlier. We're talking about the question that abound after NIS boss, that is Philip Kameru, who's right here. Trusted man who served in Uhuru's government, lives over a year earlier. Story captured on page 10. And, it highlights some of his activities as a person who was at this space of intelligence, and as well the replacement that has been proposed by President William Ruto, that is DPP Nordin Haji, and what then this would mean in terms of making sure that the nation is protected and of course the intelligence space of the country is well manned. Unveiled cost of top varsity TVET courses. I think this is what was brought to the fore, even as, parents are encouraged to help their students and also teachers to, just pick the universities that they would wish. Students they've been placed to, students who sat for KCSE last year get nod to choose preferred university and college courses whose fee details for the first time are displayed in the placement agency website in the new higher education mix of scholarships, loans and household contributions. And it appears like it will be very expensive for specific courses, and especially at the private entities. And so it is for you to go and help your child check it out and see just how best then they can manage, even as some of them that will depend on funding from the government. This also, as there have been complaints on the question of jobs and the quality of education, ChatGPT, jobs threat and call for regulation. They say, well, most of the students will depend on this, focusing not on their studies and understanding what it is that is taught to them, because then they find a shortcut in this application. Well, that is what we have on the Standard newspaper. Allow us to briefly look at the People Daily. It speaks to the tax collection falls to 128, short of the target, 128 billion. That's a story captured on the Business Hub, page 16 of the People Daily. It's been quite unfortunate that despite the fact that, there's been this high raise of taxes and even some more proposals on the same, the country has not been able to collect what can manage the budget that we have. And for the longest of time, we've been forced to run to debt. What would it take for us to manage, the tax collection and get it right is a conversation that we're having in the country, even as we are waiting for the 20th, which will be the deadline for us to present our very own proposals in relation to the Finance Bill 2023. Qatari billionaire in final offer for Man United buyout, take it or leave it. Rich Sheikh tells Red Devils owners as he ramps up bid to knock out rival Ratcliffe, and that's quite interesting. That is in the world of sports. As always, we'll be having our commentators to update us some more in relation to that. Milk from plants go on and take a sip. Interesting. Well, pretty much good for those ones who would not want to consume animal, produce, then this would be a good option. That is right there in the business bit. MCAs pay us or we shall shut counties down. They have a raft of proposals in relation to what adjustments they would want to be made. And of course, they're talking about higher salaries to be increased from around 144,000, or that is the current one, to 390, 270. And well, their own kitty establishment of a ward development fund. They are calling for that as well, so that they can manage activities without having to depend on the county bosses. Development budget fund to be pegged at 40% of country development budget. And also they're talking about allowances, SRC, to bring back plenary sitting allowances, as well as lower taxes. They say KRA to refund about 30% tax on car loan reimbursements. This is what they've been crying for quite a while, and we hope to see what then will be done in relation to that. But we have seen most of, as well, other members of parliament and representatives, saying that it would be necessary to accord them this, because they are at the heart of devolution and also close to the people. It will be necessary for them to have these funds so that they can manage themselves as well as manage the people who they interact with on a daily basis. They say they want their salaries increased and be equal to 40% of a governor's pay of the wheel not to work starting today. And of course, they'll be following up. We'll also be following up to update you on what then they will decide. Those are the stories that are on the front page of the People Daily and the Standard newspaper. Briefly, what is on the front page of the Daily Nation? Just how safe is your instant shower? That is on the magazine bit. You would love to understand some more. If, of course, there are problems to that, then you need to know so that you can adjust accordingly. Mukumu students in hospital again, a story that is captured on page 2 of the Daily Nation, and it's quite unfortunate to hear it. We know that it's not been all rosy to a point where this school was shut down to be opened recently. But then again, this report is not good. Experts are offering psychological support to learners and staff. And of course, they're back in hospitals days after their return. And according to a report, 82 students were admitted to hospitals between May and May 14. And of course, the number of students who were admitted to hospital is 24 with various illness after they reported back to school on May the 8th. What could be informing this? Of course, it's being investigated, and we'll be here to give you more updates in our subsequent broadcast. And Njiriaini, 26 others sent home over release of about 160 million expired sugar. And I mean, Kenyans are cautioned that they need to worry that perhaps the sugar on your shelf could be that sugar that is not good. And what could have informed this? Perhaps also an investigated copy, or is being investigated upon. We'll be giving you updates on the same. Just what could have informed the disappearance of these sugars that were supposed to be destroyed, and before you know it, you come and the sugars are not in the store anymore. What really played out? Who is it that was involved in this? Are the key questions that are being asked right now. Inside Ruto's many battles, President took up the reins of country in difficult times, and that he has acknowledged for quite a long time. And so, well, he's a man on a mission, as one would want to call him. And 8 months after taking office, the president has encountered a myriad of hurdles and challenges, many of which have forced him to shift position, that is on campaign promises he made, hurting his very own supporters who now think they were shortchanged. And yesterday we had a very comprehensive conversation on whether the hustler has been so shortchanged. It's on our social media platforms. You can always check it out. Why sugar prices will remain high, a local and a global shortage of sugar cane, and speculation following a proposal in the finance bill that is to introduce a new tax on sugar has triggered an increase in the prices. A story captured on page 10. And we're talking about lots and lots of money. I remember speaking to people back at home, and they were complaining like a quarter of sugar is going for 80 something bob, and they say, well, this is a record high, and hoping that the government will make the necessary adjustments. MCAs suspend sitting to demand pay rise. That also is a developing story. And this one on Matters Education, portal open for 2022 KCSE candidates to select university and college courses. We'll be updating you on these stories and much more. Kindly grab your copy and get to understand some more. Allow us now to take these stories prepared by my team. And speaking of those missing, and a family in the Kafusini area on the outskirts of Malindi have remained in the dark about the whereabouts of 5 of their loved ones who were in controversial Preacher Paul Mackenzie's church in Shakahola. And according to them, their sister, who was known as Mtumishi Janet, left her job and her marriage with her Italian husband and followed Mackenzie in Shakahola alongside her 3 children and her nephew. And until date, their whereabouts are unknown. Violet Auma reports.
It is late in the afternoon when we arrive in Kasufini area on the outskirts of Malindi town. This is the home of Mtumishi Janet. Janet's sister Paris Dhahabu and Mary Kazungu tells me that the sister, who was Mackenzie's assistant in Shakahola church and Mtumishi title in the neighborhood.
Kila kiongea ni papa. Kwa kaja akatuambia na sisi itabidi na nyinyi muende kanisani, tuende kanisani kwa Mackenzie. Nikamwambia mimi sijafikisha kwenda kanisani. Akanambia wewe nenda kanisani kwa sababu saa hii dunia itakuja kuisha. Hii dunia itakuja kuisha, wewe utapokelewa na nani?
They say that Janet, who was at one time a leader of Good News International Church in Gongoni, chose to leave her job and her marriage with a white man to follow Mackenzie.
Alivyoshikana na Mackenzie tu, Mackenzie akambadilisha. Akabidi akadivorce kwa sababu Mackenzie akaona ile anasema kama unaenda kwa kanisa lake, anasema si vizuri kukaa na mwanamume.
Ndio hawa watoto wa dadangu akatoa kwa sababu walikuwa wanasoma Little Angels, akatoa kwa hiyo shule. Wakao kila siku asubuhi wanapandishwa kwa bike, wanaenda Frunzi kwa ile kanisa, wanaenda kufundishwa mambo ya Bible hapo. Kwa hiyo walikuwa hawaendi shule.
Mary Kazungu, Mtumishi's young sister, says that her sister told her that she had bought a farm in Shakahola for farming in order to bring food home. Little did she know of what will befall her there. In 2016, her sister managed to convince their father to join the church, but he died 2 months after joining Mackenzie. She says that her sister once wanted to sell her house worth 2.5 million to take the money to Mackenzie in the forest.
Akaitafuta makaratasi hakuiona. Sasa katika ule mfungo ukampata kabla hajapata yale makaratasi ya zile nyumba. Ndo akafa kabla hizo nyumba. Lakini kama angelikuwa amepata zile makaratasi angelikuwa ameuza. Kwa maana wenzake wote wameshauza.
Dahabo and Mary says that the efforts to free the loved ones from Mackenzie's clutches did not bear fruits as the police turned a deaf ear to their plea.
Tukasikia mwezi wa kwanza ilikuwa ni watoto wanaanzishwa mwezi wa kwanza kufunga, ikifika saa 12 wanapewa chakula. Ikaenda wakasema Mackenzie akasema saa hii ni ya watoto kwenda mbinguni. Kwa hivyo saa hii watoto mnawafungisha, msiwape chakula, wanakufa wanaenda mbinguni. Mwezi wa 3 ulikuwa ni wa kina mama. Sasa ikaendelea hivyo kwa hapo ilipofikia sana, bado sisi tunatafuta familia yetu hatujaipata.
Mutumishi Janet, as she's known here, along with her 3 children and her nephew, are feared to be among the hundreds who fasted to death in Shakahola forest to meet Jesus.
Sasa nikamwambia nimekuja kutafuta familia yangu, nikamwonyesha hiyo picha. Akanambia basi huyu kama ni dadako alikufa hapo katikati ya msitu, hata alibebwa na wheelbarrow. Ule kijana akanirudisha huku nyuma sasa. Akanambia ule kijana mwenye amesimama kule, yule ndo alibeba mwili na wheelbarrow, tulimemweka kwa wheelbarrow, tukaja tukachukua maiti yake tukaiweka huku mbele ili askari wakikuja waje apate huo mwili uko huku mbele.
At the moment it has become a ritual for them. Every day they go to hospital to find their loved ones among those who have been rescued or bodies exhumed while waiting for the DNA results.
Nikaanza kufikiria vile dadangu alikuwa akinifanyia, venye tulikuwa, na alikuwa ni mtu mzuri, anakuambia kama kuna kitu alikuwa hapendi alikuwa ni muwazi.
All that is left for them is to pray to find their loved ones alive or dead, at least to give them their last respect.
Tunaomba tu waongeze hizo bidii kututafutia watu, hata kama itakuwa wamekufa, lakini tuwapate tuzike tu wenyewe.
So far, over 200 bodies have been exhumed from Shakahola, while the process of exhuming other bodies continues. Reporting for TV47, I'm Violet Auma.
Now, 15 more bodies have been recovered at Shakahola Forest in Kilifi County as the search for victims of a suspected starvation cult continues. This now brings the death toll to 227, with the second phase of post-mortem exercise set to begin.
9 a.m. Wednesday. And for the second day after the brief suspension of the exhumation, detectives have begun getting deeper into the 800-acre piece of land as they search for more graves believed to be of victims of controversial Pastor Paul Mackenzie, who is believed to have brainwashed his supporters to fast to death. Today, the detectives managed to exhume 15 bodies. One body was recovered from the forest, pushing the death toll to 227.
Ile timu ambayo inahusika kwa mambo ya kufukua mili imeweza kufukua mili 15, na pia ile timu yetu ya kutafuta watu pale kichakani imeweza kupata mwili moja. Kwa hivyo leo tuko na mili 16.
One person was rescued, making the number of those rescued rise to 85, with those arrested on accusation of collusion with Mackenzie remaining at 31.
Na ile timu ambayo inahusika kwa kuwatafuta wenzetu pale kichakani imeweza kumwokoa mwanaume mtu mzima akiwa kwa hali mzuri. Wale ambao tumeweza kuwakamata bado wanabaki 31.
The discovery, which has been termed as a massacre by civil society groups, has so far seen 610 people still missing. Detectives say they are likely to wrap up the exercise sooner so as to begin the second phase of post-mortem on the bodies. Mackenzie is still in custody and has not yet been charged. Chichi Josephine, TV47.
And as the rot in the public sector continues to unleash due to corruption matters, President William Ruto has emphasized integrity and vigilance within government ministries and departments. The recent axing of the KEMSA board due to misappropriation of funds now reawakens the past scandals that remain unsolved in the independent institutions facing political interference.
Even before the dust settles on the COVID-19 medicine supply scandal, another mosquito net scandal is brewing at Kenya Medical Supplies Authorities, KEMSA, raising questions on the dependency of the relevant authorities to deal with corruption cases in the country. In the latest Corruption Perception Index released by Transparency International in January this year, Kenya has been ranked position 123 out of 180 countries globally in terms of magnitude of corruption.
We need to tighten the laws of corruption, number one. We need to allow the independent institutions like EACC to conduct their work. Okay, because once politicians or top members of the government make those comments, it demoralizes the prosecutions, the prosecutors, the investigators, and many others who are in that chain.
I think Kenya is dwindling in terms of making progress and regressing at the same time. And that's largely because of lack of adherence to set legislations and policies that are supposed to guard against corruption in Kenya.
Ethics and Anti-Corruption Chairman Bishop David Oginde has revealed his plan to slay the vice that has been cited as the biggest impediment to development in the country and one he himself has termed as Kenya's worst enemy.
I said that ASCC is working very hard towards helping the various institutions of government to work on preventive measures against corruption rather than for us to wait for corruption to happen and then go after the people who have been involved.
However, governance experts opine that the appointment of clergymen in these commissions to deal with corruption is a way of blinding the public to assume that the men of the cloth will act with integrity.
It is a game that is being played by the people who appoint the chairs of some of these commissions, and they are playing that game because they think that Kenyans are gullible and that Kenyans are not informed and that Kenyans probably forget too fast. Because Bishop Oginde is not the first religious leader that we are seeing at the apex of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
Even as efforts continue to be made to fight the vice, constitutional lawyers say political interference is still a big challenge as far as combating graft is concerned.
So we have a problem with our ODPP still, because the office has not been insulated from political pressure and political influence that is sometimes exerted on these people to enable them make decisions that may not be favorable to the country.
Because politicians might only stifle the commission, and we have also seen that working very, very badly against the commission in the past. So they also have to feel that the commission is working for citizens and also be able to give the commission enough resources to do its work without political interference.
Since the inauguration of President William Ruto, the Director of Public Prosecutions has been on a spree of dropping high-profile cases, including Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's 7.3 billion shillings graft case, Public Service CS Aisha Jumwa's 19 billion shillings graft case, and former Kenya Power MD 400 million shillings graft case, among others. Flora Limuki, TV47.
Exactly 1 minute past the top of the hour. That story by Limuki is what forms the basis of our conversation this morning. Allow us to take a quick short break and then we come back to that.
For the biggest of guests, from politicians to entertainers to content creators to whichever kind of a person you want to think that you'd want to see on the show, this is the place to be. Dr. Funeke tonight.
Each and every Wednesday. My name is DJ Lizney, not your ordinary DJ.
And of course, they call me the Eagle himself. Your host, Dr. Funeke, is my name. Of course, every Wednesday at 7:30. See you then. Don't touch.
Make sure to join us.
Tell your landlord as well. Jua unalipia wa parent.
Sikose.
From politics, health, cooking, relationships, and entertainment, join Linda Alela every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. only on Morning Cafe.
Your health is not just about going to the hospital. Your health is about prevention, it's about what you eat, it's about where you live. For this reason, the Body Garage Show exists.
The part of the brain that deals with communication.
Called primary hypertension, which means that we don't find a reason for that.
Join me, Dr. Chepsi, every Thursday, 8 p.m.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Beyond the Limit. We have not even scratched the surface when it comes to knowledge about disability. Beyond the Limit with me, Zainab Mohammed, every Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
You know what pops in my house more than the rainbow? Walls. You know what I love between me and him? Space. Don't worry, dishes. No one is doing me either. Hey, not much. Just hanging around. Pull yourself together. Enough of the jokes.
We're shifting gears to the conversation, but before then, allow us to go with this story first. And as the KEMSA anti-malaria net scandal intensifies, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha says she will be hell-bent on fighting corruption in the Ministry of Health, which has since been christened Mafia House. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, the CS remarks come just hours after President William Ruto made changes in the Principal Secretary's position, which has greatly affected the ministry.
Just days after the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority KEMSA 3.7 billion Kenya shillings anti-malaria net scandal was revealed by the Global Fund, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha now says that she blew the whistle to EACC on the matter, but some senior officials at the ministry stopped her letter from reaching EACC CEO Twalib Mbarak.
And that is how corruption fights back in this country. That when I wrote a letter on Thursday, EACC is only a few meters from my office. By Monday, the letter had not arrived. But thankfully, Twalib confirmed to me and said, Madam CS, you don't have to worry. I have already released my officers. And they're already at KEMSA doing their work.
CS Nakhumicha has also revealed that this is not the first time the ministry clashed with some members of the KEMSA board.
My few days in office, I told the CEO KEMSA, my friend, from today, I want to see pre-qualification through an information management system. And she told me, Madam CEO, the PPOA Act does not allow us to do it, and it is too costly to do it. I told her, I know somebody who will do it for free. And when the person went to visit, the CEO was not present.
In his maiden public address after assuming office, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chair Bishop David Oginde now says they have commenced investigations into the net scandal and will later table their findings with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
We have a whole investigative department that is going to look at where were the loopholes, what were the things that happened, who are the culpable people, and they will be invited for interviews, and those people who are found to be culpable, then we'll forward their names with the relevant evidence to the DPP for further action.
Some of the embattled officials at the Ministry of Health include Martin Wamwea, Lenson Kariuki, Dr. Pauline Duya, and Livingstone Njuguna. Health CS now insist that anyone found guilty will face the law.
So internally, we have made the suspension based on their involvement at that level. However, I personally wrote to EACC and they have come to do a thorough investigation. Should they find that my name is anywhere or I have been involved in any way, I believe your question then will come in handy in terms of knowing what I will do.
The KEMSA scandal has forced President William Ruto to make changes in not only the Health Ministry and KEMSA, but also in the docket of principal secretaries, with Harry Kimutai taking up the role of Medical Services Principal Secretary, a position previously held by Peter Tum, who has since been transferred to the Ministry of Sports. Mary Mudhoni is the new Principal Secretary for Public Health and Professional Standards after Josephine Mburu was sent packing.
Kenyans know that the president cracked the whip to the extent of terminating contract of one of my PSs, and now with that reshuffle. But as it is Kenyan culture, in reading the president's speech, everybody missed out on the step that had been taken by the cabinet secretary.
CS, we realized that at this particular point there exists a noose around your neck. There are some people who are baying for your blood with regard to several allegations of corrupt practices in your ministry.
Global Fund has since cancelled the 3.7 billion tender and offered it directly to its own online procurement wing, wambo.org. The Ministry of Health had until the 8th of May to sign the handover documents, with CS Nakumicha confirming that they are now taking up the matter.
Therefore, I am in agreement with the Global Fund that the nets shall be procured through wambo.org so that we shorten the time and ensure then there are no gaps in supply. However, we are improving our system. The next procurement, we shall do it ourselves.
EACC has today launched a survey report on the nature and extent of corruption and unethical conduct in Kenya's health sector, where it was established that the sector is the second leading institution in corruption at over 18%. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
I know they will say that as a country we are reactionary and perhaps do not address some of the problems that bedevil us, right before they happen. But this is a classic example of some of, the problems that we'd say in the health sector. We have somehow managed to curtail at the early stages. Of concern, though, is that, personally, for the longest time I know, and from the time that I have practiced journalism, from the very first time, there's not a single time I have failed to report on corrupt cases in the health sector. And it's quite smears, I must admit. It leaves us wondering, just how then do we create a balance in this struggle of making sure that Kenyans enjoy, a proper aspect of health, proper coverage of health, universal coverage, if we are going to operate on this basis, that on constant, observation, we are reporting about corruption in the health sector. And anytime there's that list of corruption that comes on board, that is, in relation to ministry, the health sector will always take the lead or being amongst the, those ones that are considered to be so much so corrupt. That as well, in relation to the report that was given to us by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission yesterday, perhaps just to confirm, that the actions of the president in making adjustments at the health sector, radical adjustments that, got some people going home was justified or was necessary. And so we get into this conversation alongside health specialists, as I have said, a member of parliament who sits in the health committee as well to help us decipher on these matters. Mheshimiwa Duncan Maina, it's been a minute. How have you been?
I've been fine, thank you.
It's good to have you, the member of parliament that is Nyeri town. How are the people of Nyeri and all that?
I believe the people of Nyeri are fine, and we are getting on well. Yeah. And the issues that are emerging now, unfortunately, have been at the ministry for quite some time. Yeah. And no wonder the ministry's headquarters has been more known as Mafia House because of the kind of real dealings that happened there. Yeah. And the minister, Nakumisha, in April this year, was in the news on cartels in Mafia House, again in the field of malaria. And between then and now, actually she said she would publish the list of the cartels who are involved in the procurement of malaria testing kits. So where did the list go? And there have been battles. I can confirm this without fear of contradiction, that as the health committee, we have been treated to vicious battles within the ministry right at the top. And I can remember at one time in a sitting with the ministry, I did ask, in these circumstances, it is just a question of when this ministry is going to throw us all into the embarrassment basket. And unfortunately, when that happens, it may not spare any one of us in government. Unfortunately, and I know they are listening, I know they are watching, they know I said it as much at the Windsor Hotel during a meeting between the Health Committee and the Ministry of Health.
We'll be coming back to that. First of all, also, just trying to understand the role of the Health Committee and how much of a say it has in making some of these adjustments. Allow me to acknowledge the presence of Zainab, that is Kombo, who's the campaign manager, Amnesty International as well, you know, under that, handling lots of campaigns of different matters, including health. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us this morning. And the General Secretary, the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, that is George M. Gibore. Thank you so much. I get to meet you for the first time. Not really the first time, that is on set. It's a pleasure to have you as we get to this conversation. And you listen to Mheshimiwa speak. Does it not scare you? Does it not worry you? And we might want to overlook what has played over the previous years during the times of Sicily, during the times of Mutai Kagwe, during 2013, 2016, when it was extremely rampant at that time when, you know, President Uhuru Kenyatta was at the top of the helm. It's not even a year into the reign of the Kenya Kwanza government, and here we are.
Yeah, thank you, Linda, for the invitation, and good morning, our viewers. I think this is a critical issue that we need to discuss about, and I know off-peak we were discussing the health has been the issue all through, but I think yes, through we need to discuss this issue. If you go into history since 2013, we have been having these cases coming on, riddling around the Minister of Health, where you get, it start from misuse of money and actually corruption, which is bedeviling this ministry, touching on NHF and KEMSA. Now, 2020, we had this KEMSA thing, and now we have the same KEMSA thing. I think I want to appreciate that the president had to take this action, which many will be saying it is actually reactionary, but I need to say it is good because it will actually send a message, a strong message that we are not going to tolerate this kind of behavior, and at least deter some of those who are thinking to do the same. And unfortunately, we need to say that a long-lasting reform need to be restructured and get to look like what is it that we need to do so that we can prevent such a things and be purposeful for the same. We get to see what are the optics that we need to consider, because when you see people and the kind of appetite people have to actually swindle money that intended to benefit sick people is really sickening. And as a country where currently we are actually even surviving, Kenya are wondering whether they will get a meal for the evening, and they cannot be very sure of getting medicine when they go to the hospital. You can't be able actually to give space for anyone with such intention to continue serving. Yes.
And we'll give credit to Amnesty International for always being at the heart and the forefront of making sure that, you know, the needs, and those are the social needs and generally the needs of the people across the global fraternity are looked into. We can't help but compare, you know, and now that you are here representing Amnesty, what do you make of the health situation in the country in comparison to just the global fraternity, you know, other African countries? And
Linda, it was just the other day when we read that the healthcare system in Kenya ranks second best in Africa. And now we are here discussing about 3.7 billion.
So you can imagine how bad it is for other African countries if this is now
if this is the second
Yeah.
best healthcare system we are talking about in Africa, then what about others? But at the same time, I just wonder how, as a country, we treat our people, because the alleged, and I'm using the word alleged, criminals are being treated so nicely, they are sacked, but they are somewhere in their homes. Look at how we treated the protesters during the COVID billionaires protest in 2020. Look at how we treat people venting out, airing out issues, and how we are treating the alleged criminals. And we are not talking about shillings, we are talking about billions. It affects the common mwananchi very differently. If you look at the report, we have over 80% acknowledgement of corruption, both by the health staff and members of the public. But again, about over 70% of the members of the public who were interviewed confirm that they were not actively involved in, public participation. This tells you something. The devil lies in the plans. The County Integrated Development Plan, the Annual Development Plan, that is where the devil lies. And it brings back the aspect of meaningful public participation. Because the moment we miss that opportunity, that is when all this then takes place with no hitches.
Mheshimiwa, from afar, you could notice that there's going to be a problem. There's trouble brewing, and you highlighted that. What is this one thing that got you thinking, well, something is amiss here? If not, napped by the nib, then we're headed to disaster.
One, within the Ministry of Health, there has been a power struggle between the people who have been vested with the responsibility of running the ministry. There has been a power struggle between the State Department of Medical Services and the State Department of Public Health. And an institution like KEMSA lies smack in the middle. It has to procure commodities for public health, and it has to procure commodities for medical services. Yet, KEMSA, by the organization of the executive order, is placed in the hands under the mandate and responsibility of the Permanent Secretary, Medical Services. And therefore you find when you have a duality of power centers, then the people reporting are lost somehow.
Somewhere in between,
Who really is the person I'm supposed to report to. Number two, EACC was in this country during COVID. These were the words of President Uhuru Kenyatta. In 21 days, we expect a report. I would really have loved to have been an invitee during the launch of this report on the health sector, so that I would have asked EACC, where is the report on the COVID haste, where again, KEMSA was smack in the middle. The Public Procurement Oversight Authority, there is a reporting requirement for all procuring entities to report on compliance twice every year, every 6 months, to the PPURA. What does the PPURA do with the reports that are filed? They are purely filed for purposes of complying with the deadline that, yes, I did file a report. Nobody ever goes into that report to ask, where are the gaps? Why are these reports short? Why are they non-compliant? And therefore, you find that institutions that really have been vested with power In fact, I want to tell EACC on the issue of the COVID haste, they let Kenyans down.
They did?
Where is the report they produced on COVID?
And maybe...
Even as they say that, I don't know within how many days, they are going to give us a report on the malaria net. Incidentally, on the malaria net, this was a scandal in the making. And the Global Fund asserted itself by saying, no, you have not followed the laid down procedure. You have not followed down the specifications. On the basis of this, we don't want anything to do with this tender.
Do you suppose in the absence of the international, aspect to this, maybe would not have gotten to it if it was something that was happening locally?
If it was GOK money, if it was exchequer money, most likely we would have gone through with this procurement. And therefore we ask, and because even when we listen to KEMSA, they say during the COVID issues, during the COVID season, they procured for the international community and also procured using GOK money. Everything that was procured at the donor funding and donor specification did not have a problem. But what was procured using exchequer funds ran us into problems. But it looks like KEMSA upped the game, or the players in the industry now decided GOK is not good enough. They seem to have now decided we will dip our hands even into the donor kitty. And this is why I thank the president for acting very swiftly in the realm of what is known as political will. That as the president, you are my appointee. I have power to appoint you. I have power to fire you on the basis of failing to live to my expectation even before anything else.
But therein lies the confusion, and I think we have seen this. First of all, others crying foul that perhaps this was not the right PS to fire in as much. She's the person who began this process that led to the failure of us being accorded what it is that was expected from the international body. But as well, there's a question on public servants and how they're protected within the Constitution. And while it is the prerogative of the president to hire and fire, such questions arise. This is something that is likely to trigger a legal battle. How then does the president go ahead to handle the same?
Where does the buck stop?
With the president.
Where does the buck stop? Yes. And therefore we must agree that there are two things. Public officers who are recruited through the public service. Then there is the procedure. There is the procedural requirements that they go through the processes as set out in terms of disciplining and everything else as set out under the Public Service Act. The state officers who are appointed, where are the processes? It is at that point where we say that the buck stops with the president. When we look at the health sector, and especially on the issue of UHC. UHC cannot succeed without KEMSA playing the expected role. And the expected role of KEMSA in UHC is so critical from two fronts. Number one, ensuring the availability, uninterrupted availability of medical products and technologies of good quality. That is number one. Number two, managing the cost of those products by leveraging on the economies of scale through bulk ordering. That bulk ordering cannot be confined. For the bulk ordering to bring down the cost, we need to pull together all the requirements for the entire health sector, both public and private. And actually, we go regional to the East African community. We win the confidence of the government of Kenya finances and the donor finances. We win the confidence of the national government and the county governments and the public. KEMSA cannot afford at this point in time to go through a crisis of confidence.
But here, and we are going through that crisis of confidence, even after the reaction of the president, even after that action by the president. And the report by the EACC is even worrying, is to tell you that that is just one thing that has been addressed.
Yeah, let me say I agree with Mheshimiwa when he says that where does this stop? It stopped with the president. I want to say that it's good that we tell Kenyan the fact that there are two angles into this thing. Politically, the president is very right on what he did in terms of trying to tell Kenyans that we are doing something about it. But if we have to look into the root cause of these things, that when we heard the complaints for the money that was misused in 2013, which was intended to better maternal services, we never got answers. 2014 NHF issues where we lost so close to over 9 billions, we have never gotten answers. 2016, where money which was intended to also for medical supply was mishandled, we never got answers. We have 2020, again, the question that he's talking about, the COVID issue, we have never gotten answers. Now, when we come to this issue, which has come to the public domain, it was also good for the president to act politically to demonstrate that there's something we are doing. But we want to look at the root cause of these things. Always it is around procurement. Do we have...
Before we even get into depth of that, then one would want to ask, before we speak of the root cause and it being a problem of procurement, is it the prerogative again of the current president to unearth the problems that were there back then, the KEMSA haste, I mean, in COVID-19 and everything? Or they will tell you, we're here, we're now dealing with this. Allow me to take a short break. Allow me to take a short break and then I come back on that very note so that we try and unpack these cases of procurement and even beyond that. After this break.
For the biggest of guests, from politicians to entertainers to content creators to whichever kind of a person you want to think that you'd want to see on the show, this is the place to be. Dr. Funike tonight.
Each and every Wednesday. My name is DJ Lizney, not your ordinary DJ.
And of course, they call me the eagle himself. Your host, Dr. Funike, is my name. Of course, every Wednesday at 7:30. See you there and don't touch.
Make sure to join us.
Tell your landlord as well. Jua unalipia parent.
Sikose.
From politics, health, cooking, relationships, and entertainment, join Linda Alela every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. only on Morning Cafe.
Your health is not just about going to the hospital. Your health is about prevention, it's about what you eat, it's about where you live. For this reason, the Body Garage Show exists.
The part of the brain that deals with communication.
Called primary hypertension, which means that we don't find a reason for that.
Join me, Dr. Chepsi, every Thursday.
To look at this as quite an extensive report, and we're coming to you, corruption and unethical conduct. This is the report by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the watch of Bishop, who just gets into the helm, and perhaps his first and main assignment, when we want to say, they speak of a study of procurement and financial management practices at the health sector. The projects and the numerous cases, they have highlighted cases of bribery, problems of misappropriation of funds, problems on the procurement space, and, numerous cases that would get the health sector being looked at as second, in relation to the question of corruption. So here you are, you're talking about the problems that could have been deviled as over time. Constantly procurement, constantly bribery, that you will give this amount of money, you are awarded the tender, then you're going to pay like 4 million for them. And I'm told it goes to levels of 35 million and all that.
So I think I need to start from where she said that Kenyan health system ranked number two in
healthcare system.
Healthcare system
It's second best
in Africa.
So when you look at it, there is many aspects you look into what constitutes the health system.
Yeah.
So we have the human resource there. We have now the governor, the leadership and governance, what you talk about. We have now this, what we call now the health product and the technology. We have now the health financing. I think, and many other, including the service delivery, which is an end product which now the community need to enjoy. Or as now the system is functioning. Now, when the system is functioning, is to mean that a majority of these building blocks are probably working, but there is somewhere we are failing. And where we are failing is what you are probably putting, that we are failing to manage our financial properly, and the leadership and governance system probably has some loopholes. And that is where probably I was trying to say that when the president acts, he's right. Politically, administratively, probably not good. Because we need to look at how do we now resolve this issue going forward and avoid us coming back to fight fire or to do firefighting. So for me, I look at it and say, yes, when everything is touching about procurement, we need to go to the reports that have been generated. What kind of proposal are they making? And what are the loopholes that they have identified to propose legislative framework that we must be able to seal this loophole and ensure that people are able to get the services out of these people who are working. And we must get to say that not everyone who is working in the health system who are corrupt. There are few elements, and unfortunately, including other people who are not working in the system, who create pressure to this system by virtue of their own convenience. Because corruption is not only for the inside people, it actually comes from outside. So we need also to see a system whereby when you fire the people who are in, how do we get rid of these people who are not in, who are creating pressure for the people who are functioning in, to know to function properly. And we must be able to see the legislative framework that is proposing a very strict penalties to these people. Because when you say suspended, fired, and nothing happened, these people have stolen billions from Kenyans, they go to enjoy outside there fighting cases in court. We feel that this is not going to end anymore, and we'll still continue seeing these cases coming up until we prescribe a medicine that probably may end this issue, or rather even prevent it forever. We will still continue seeing these cases coming up because still we are struggling. And as a struggling country, I think this is where now every Kenyan needs to be very bitter about it, because we cannot afford our medicine, we cannot afford food, but there are people enjoying our money at our expenses in the realm where they have been trusted with people, but they are misusing these offices to do their own businesses. So I want to call upon the president that he has the goodwill of the people of Kenya, and he must be able to ensure that he deliver what he promised Kenyans under the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, the plan, where he promised to ensure that these services can benefit Kenyans. But if at all he doesn't actually work as he has demonstrated today, to ensure that he has the right structure to deliver the services, to ensure that we have commodity in those facilities. Because what happens is that people do not trust the public facility, especially the lower facility, because there is no workers, there's no healthcare workers, there is no medicine, the laboratory are not functioning. Why? Because the money that is intended to ensure these services is there have been embezzled by who? Top leaders who are in those ministry, not everyone. So when you open up to that, you kill a system that is supposed to be actually the best. We are told being the second, and we are the one who have been talking about UHC for the last almost over 4 years. But we are nowhere to say we have a report about the UHC that we can tell Kenyans we celebrate. We endeavor, and the healthcare workers are serious about it. They are working and ensuring that they can be able to deliver these services. But we must see our resources that are allocated to ensure services delivery is used prudently, efficiently, and effectively.
We'll come back to the healthcare workers, but allow me to loop in Zaina. Zaina, this report acknowledges that this is what they say, I quote, even though there was some improvement in ranking, the health sector remained the most prone to corruption and unethical conduct. I know we are talking about, the healthcare system, across, but let's narrow down to KEMSA for a moment, and you tell us your understanding or how you translate or interpret the president's statement, and this as well, when he says, I will clean up KEMSA. You wait and see.
While we wait and see, Mwananchi wants to see arrest. We want to see arrest. You can hear it dates back to 2013. We're almost at a decade now of people who've been suspended. And the word suspended gives me, some shiver, because it means you earn half of your salary.
Yeah.
So when we have alleged criminals earning half of their salaries, and at Amnesty right now, as we speak, we have a campaign dubbed Afya Nafuu, and it speaks to the citizens so that they can exercise their agency in holding their leaders accountable, in holding NHIF accountable, because was it 2 days ago, we read that when you go to hospital with your NHIF, you are not guaranteed of health services. Why? Because NHIF has not paid. So we need to see proper accountability. Suspension, sacking, yes, knee-jerk reaction. We are glad still, but we need to see arrests within a week. I'm hoping that the EACC, while conducting the face-to-face interviews, at some level they were able to loop in the investigation officers so that they were also gathering evidence to quickly give to DPP so that we see arrest. Because without arrest, I'm not too sure Mwananchi is convinced. I'm not too sure Mwananchi wants to read this report. And as I go back to the CIDP, we need to have consequences to public participation.
Yeah.
If you take the CIDP, if you take the ADP to the people, they give you comments and you do not act on them, what then happens? Because that is why we are here. In most instances, you find the public participation happens because we are ticking a box. Because the budget process says we need to have public participation.
Yeah.
But do relevant agencies consider the contributions of Mwananchi when I've left my workplace and I've come to this place and I've submitted whatever submissions I'm making? Are they considered? If they're not considered, what do we do?
And those also are represented to these dockets or to these sectors, courtesy also of the members of parliament that represent Mwananchi. Do you suppose these ones are considered to the level that they should?
Let me first point out to the gap in the law. Currently, we're in the season of budgeting and the finance bill.
Yeah.
Nyeri County has a finance bill before the county assembly. The executive did not subject the proposed finance bill in Nyeri County to public participation.
Unfortunately.
Now, what should then the Finance Act or the Public Finance Management Act say about the lack of public participation at one level?
Okay.
It should outright prohibit an institution that has not carried out public participation from submitting that document to the next level. Those are the kind of things I would have expected to see in this report by EACC when I say it has not gone deep enough.
Yeah.
Now, despite that gap, in compliance with the budgeting cycle and the Public Finance Management Act, the finance bill, proposed finance bill, is before the County Assembly of Nyeri.
Nobody.
This finance bill, at the point we have these sittings, because even in parliament, we are going round in counties.
Yes.
Okay, I can tell you, because I come from Mount Kenya region, I know that the finance committee is going to sit in Nyandarua, is going to sit in Kirinyaga, is going to sit in Embu, is going to sit in Tharaka-Nithi.
But how much time do we have? Because we're talking about the 20th.
You see, that is the memoranda, the presentation of memoranda. There's a deadline of Friday.
Yes.
But the actual public participation sittings are ongoing. However, what is the demand of the law in terms of how Parliament must deal with the proposals that are given by the public during those sittings?
Yes.
It is left. There is actually no prescription. I go, listen, whether I take them into consideration in the final product that I present, and how then the public should respond, or how the law should restrict me from proceeding unless I demonstrate that these are the changes, are the inputs from the public that I have put into consideration in presenting the final document to the legislature for consideration to pass or to amend.
Okay.
Now, that roadmap is not clear, is not provided for. And therefore, the legislature at both levels, both county and national level, we have to rise up to the occasion. We have to rise up to the higher calling. In terms of budget, I can tell you we've just finalized the 2 days hearing with the Ministry of Health. And we have insisted, if you tell us that you are equipping 92 hospitals, 98 hospitals, under the managed equipment services, you must bring the name of the hospitals and the specified equipment you will be providing. Without that, we will not pass the 5.9 billion. And I'm urging Parliament not to pass if those details are not provided. Because that is the loophole. We have passed money without identifying the beneficiary and the scope of the benefit that this beneficiary is going to receive. That is why we have these issues. Number two, EACC, all these contractors who confirmed that they have participated in developing specifications for projects, where are they? Are they still in the procurement process in this country? Are still going on? Yet they have confessed. Lastly, who owns, in this country, who owns the procurement officers? Who owns the accountant and the finance people?
Okay.
They are owned by the treasury. It is the treasury that posts them. It is the treasury that transfers them. It is the treasury that trains them. So the Ministry of Health has finance officers posted there, designated by the treasury, by the Ministry of Finance. It has procurement officers posted there, designated by the Ministry of Finance. So again, these two people, who do they respect? Is it the Minister for Health or the Minister for Finance?
Interesting questions, yeah?
And therefore, there need to be clarity so that the line of authority is direct.
Right.
Today, if the Minister for
Finance,
for Health is unhappy with the finance officers in her ministry,
how much power do they have to?
Okay, the Minister of Finance can come and withdraw them and redeploy them elsewhere. The issues that the Minister for Health had raised with the performance of this person, notwithstanding.
I would want to ask that question, and I am looking at my phone. Reminds me of Ambassador Cleophas Mailu. and during his time, and how much there was a question of corruption. And we saw his PS then, Muraguri, being moved from health to a different docket. And him, all these concerns notwithstanding, like you rightfully put it, was posted to be ambassador somewhere else. And therefore, we have this tendency of, and Kenyans will tell you, we could say that this PS has been fired. And there's been a lot of appointments based on loyalty and based on the argument that these people understand our manifesto, and therefore we have to get friends. If not friends, then those people who understand our manifesto. What is the guarantee that, Zaina says, these people are not going to be arrested and therefore they've just been sent home? Perhaps they'll be getting half their salary. Maybe they're going to be taken to other dockets. Maybe they're going to be taken to other jobs, and in silence, all these problems are not addressed.
I think that's where we point out very clearly the intents of this issue and the magnitude of it, that it involves those who are in and those who are not in. Because there is no way a person who has been allegedly, or rather has been seen to be criminal, engaging or embezzling public funds, you transfer them to the next. Are you taking them there to do the same thing, or what do you intend them to do? And that is why we are saying that we really need to see the end point of every action that is taken. We want to see these people being prosecuted, and some of them also are also staying in those cells, so that we can be able to say, yes, there's something happening. And that is why we are saying, once the president have done this, there are a number of these institutions, like now what we are calling about the ESCC, they must do their work. The investigative agencies must do their work. And we need to see these things being done, and they must be transparent to us and tell us this is what is happening, for them to earn the public trust. Because once, as it is, the public trust for the Ministry of Health has eroded, and no one believes. And of course, every worker who is in the Ministry of Health is looked like they are corrupt, which they are not. There are few elements who have tainted the name of the Ministry of Health. So we must be able to see to that. And that's why I say, if there is an active investigative agent, they investigate Linda, who has been allegedly embezzled money, and they find you did not, then we need to see that coming. But for those who have been found guilty, let them be in the cell. Let them be jailed. So when we talk about this, is that this is a one step into fighting corruption, but we need to see the next step. Where are we going? Did it end there? Did it come probably to just change the thinking about people on what we are thinking about the public finance bill that everyone is agitating about? I think we must be able to be told what next and how, so that we are not treated to the same song of we are taking action and no action is taken. And we must see those agencies that are supposed also to claim funds that has been embezzled to do the same, so that the public fund that has been stolen is returned to the public for purpose of serving Kenyan. When the former president said that we lose over 2 billion every day, we have never known who take the money and where does it go. Up to date, we believe that if that system was never interrupted, then we still lose over 2 billion. And that is the money that should be used to actually come up with the building the cheaper houses that the president keep on talking about, and doing many other projects that is actually not progressing. And the unfortunate thing is, when you talk about how the projects are being done, and failing actually to do public participation, is because people are actually coming up with the project with the specification to suit certain people, or rather to do their own project that are not intended to benefit the common public. So, and that is why we want to call upon all the agencies that have been tasked and given constitutional mandate to be active, to be proactive, and to ensure that we can tame this menace that has been continue actually to affect our people. And you must get to understand that corruption in the Ministry of Health does not only end there, but it affects including people's health and affect the economy at in a gross way. So we must be able to look at it in a wider way and get to see, yes, when there is something that has come out, how does it portray this, and how does the end result go? Because we lose life by virtue of lack of this medication, or rather even when there is no mosquito net that was supposed to be there, then you find that If you look at how many people we lose because of malaria, then you get to understand the intensity of this issue.
Yeah.
And why should anyone think of taking even a single shilling from something that is intended to benefit the children of this country? So, and we must be able to call it so, and we want to encourage the president to do it even more often.
Zaina, what do you make of the role of the first-hand players in the health sector in this country, the likes of Gibore here? Because he will tell you that he's probably going to be in this sector for the longest time because, well, that's what he practices, yeah? And has witnessed, you know, these CSs coming in, going, PSs coming in and going, and same complaints year in, year out. Do you suppose also they are, you know, taking their role firsthand as well to address some of these matters? Because if you were to ask me, you know, and I am not here to castigate them, one of the problems that we've had is also on this question of, you know, even in the public entities, we do not get so much of their attention in the public entities. Instead, they're opening up their very own, you know, private hospitals, private chemists, and you know, and operate in those lines. That perhaps frustrating the people who.
Before she responds, can I say something
In defense.
so that she can respond to it? Because we raise issues and you find that it's not acted.
Yeah.
We have institutions like under the Ministry of Health. Let's say a parastatal or a state corporate institution like Madare. We have now the KH-RAC, which the president is yet to launch, the KH-POA, and even the Cancer Institute. All those institutes, they are appropriated money directly, but still the money is actually spent at the Ministry of Health. And this is probably the third or rather fourth year of the same, but still the government, the parliament still go ahead. And that is what he says, that they need to see when you appropriate money that this is money, where the money is going, then that money must end there. Madare has the board, has the CEO, but the money is still at the Ministry of Health. Okay. Then you wonder, this is the clear corruption.
Madare does not have an act of parliament establishing it. It's still a department. It does not have an act of parliament. It does not have a legal notice establishing it.
State corporate, gazetted as a state corporate.
No, it isn't.
It is.
Please find
why
out.
does it have a board?
Yes.
You need to get to understand why it is allowed to have a board and a CEO.
Madare Hospital.
Yes.
Yes.
See,
yes.
The
question of yours, but we have to get some of these parts
You see, let's understand the duality of the existence of entities in the legal manner.
Yes.
One, you can have an act of parliament. Two, you can have a legal notice. Now, until you have those two, a legal notice or an act of parliament, then you will not get what we call in the treasury a vote head. Okay? Then without the vote head, you will have to receive money from the ministry, because then the PS becomes the accounting officer and they can delegate. And I can tell you today, it's only even Kenyatta University exists. Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital exists on the account of a legal notice and not an act of parliament. So there is some semi-autonomy. But until you have the legal instrument, then the ministry cannot give you money directly. And it is important, among the gaps we are noticing are those ones, that even the legal notice, what is the threshold? What is the stretch? What is the real power of a legal notice? Okay? Because that just puts you in the Kenya Gazette. However, remember that the power to make law does not rest with the executive. It rests with the legislature. It is important to move quickly to have an act of parliament for Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital, for Madare Hospital, and for the Spinal Injury Hospital. Today, You go to Mathare, yes, there is a CEO, and there is the chair of the board, Professor Lukoe, but they will tell you that this money, they have to go to the ministry, because then the requirement of the Public Finance Management Act requires certain things to be in place. Number two, when we have these parastatals and they come to stating their case for budget allocation, and you know there are two things. There's budget allocation in the budget. Then there is the appropriations, and after that there is disbursement. Parliament does not have a direct role in disbursement. It only comes to oversight. The disbursement is the responsibility of the Ministry of Finance. So we can allocate you money in the budget, and we can appropriate you money, but until the Treasury releases the money to you, that is disbursement. On paper, you have money. On your hands, you have zero.
The biggest problem with devolution today. No. Okay.
I think, you should let her respond. But why I raised it is because...
I will not even belabor on this issue.
Yes.
Because I realize in all that we are speaking, we are forgetting the most critical people, doctors, clinical officers, and nurses. And right now, because of all this corruption, we have doctors, nurses, clinical officers attending to patients, sometimes without gloves. It has an impact on their mental health. So what we are doing now is exposing patients to people who are themselves struggling with mental health. Why? Because salary delays, lack of equipment. If you have a patient that you can diagnose and see, this is the issue that they're dealing with, but I'm not even able to give them paracetamol. I'm not even able to have gloves so I can attend to them. And so sometimes I will withdraw because, fear of infections and all that. So this group of people, in between all these conversations, are suffering. But when they strike, what do we do to them? We condemn them. So I think it's about time, as citizens, we take our rightful position. That of Article 3, that says we need to respect, protect, and defend the Constitution. And as we are defending the Constitution, let us not only look at Chapter 4, Article 43, but also stretch to Chapter 12, where we are looking at public finance management, because I think all this discussion now goes about Chapter 12 and the principles around Chapter 12. That would be my response.
All right. Allow us to take a quick short break. I know you want to respond to Mheshimiwa. We have some details here on the status of hospitals, the referral hospitals as well, where then Mathare would sit, and perhaps we expound the conversation further. Some of these things we get right, we certainly are in the road to getting it right on the question of universal healthcare after this break.
For the biggest of guests, from politicians to entertainers to content creators to whichever kind of a person you want to think that you'd want to see on the show, this is the place to be. Dr. Feneke tonight.
Each and every Wednesday. My name is DJ Lizni, not your ordinary DJ.
And of course, they call me the eagle himself. Your host, Dr. Feneke, is my name. Of course, every Wednesday at 7:30. See you there and don't touch.
Make sure to join us.
Tell your landlord as well. Jua unalipia parent.
Sikose.
From politics, health, cooking, relationships, and entertainment, join Linda Alela every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. only on Morning Cafe.
Your health is not just about going to the hospital. Your health is about prevention, it's about what you eat, it's about where you live. For this reason, the Body Garage Show exists.
The part of the brain that deals with communication.
Called primary hypertension, which means that we don't find a reason for that.
Join me, Dr. Chepsi, every Thursday, 8 p.m.
Last laps of this segment, remember we are trying to decipher on the health situation in the country and more so in relation to corruption. This upon the move that was taken by the president, asking some of the individuals in KEMSA and making adjustments across, that is on the PSs, in a bid to make sure that he cleans up this sector as well of importance. That report by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which Mheshimiwa Duncan here falls, largely says that we could have gone further, to speak to the matters that bedevil the health sector, acknowledging, and I mean around 80%, of stakeholders within the health sector acknowledging that we have a problem in terms of the ethics at this level of health, and then gets us asking ourselves, how possible do we attain universal health care and good health processes in the country if this is the trajectory that we take? Perhaps just trying to understand the position of different entities, and that is in the health facilities that we have in the country, where they sit, their understanding in terms of the legal aspect and prospects of the same. You wanted to say something, Gibore?
Yeah, I was appreciating what Mheshimiwa was saying, and I was saying that once the legislative body have realized that there is a problem, I think they need also to be proactive, come up with the policies that need to seal up this loophole. Because when you have a one entity actually being the accounting for many other entities that they are supposed to be, because as I mentioned, KH-POA, the KH-RAC, and also the cancer center of they are well catered for, or rather provided under an act of parliament. Right. But you get to see that there are a few things that they need to have for them to function, and they have their own independence in terms of finance. And when you allocate this year, the next year, you allocate the same money to the same institution, but they are spent elsewhere, it actually put some question mark. Why is this? It is probably because of the interest that people normally do some tendering things, and that is why they are not allowing the money to go to those specific institutions. Remember, when this happened, a place like Madare, which I was talking about, they are not able even to employ a casual before they go back to the ministry, which the process goes is prolonged and they delay service delivery. Even making a decision on what to purchase, you still have to go back to the ministry. So we need really to build this institution and operationalize them for purpose of ensuring that there is service delivery. And why should you have a CEO who is an accounting officer with a proper prescription for every this term, one leave for full term, then another one coming, without enabling those people to function optimally? That is why I'm saying that this is a loophole, and it is actually facilitating corruption in our institution, and we must be able to ensure that we are looking into that. And let's everyone play a role. When we thank the president or appreciate the president for what he's doing, everyone should be able to do the role. Like us being the watchdog of the healthcare workers, when we raise the issues, that is unfortunate, that we are looked like anti-government. Instead of government appreciating, like when we say we don't have enough staff, they look like we are making noise. But every time they employ, they will still come back and actually campaign on the same platform that we employed healthcare workers. When we continue raising that we do not have enough funds allocated for the health sector, because as a country, we are a signatory to the Abja Declaration, where we are supposed to allocate 15% of our annual budget to the health sector. Now,
10%.
It is 15% of the declaration. Yeah. So as per now, I can tell you for the last financial year, we had over 450 billion, which was accounting to around 6.7%. We are now gone back, actually 6.3%. Now we have gone back to almost around 3 point something. Which we are wondering, are we matching back, or should we continue going ahead? And that is why when we do not have enough funds, we can't employ enough staff. We can't ensure that we have an updated technology in our system. We cannot promote our healthcare workers. They continue doing the same. We cannot pay them in time. The last time I saw the MPs complaining of delay payment. For us, since devolution, it has been something that has been living with us, people going for 3 months without pay. They had missed for less than around 7 days, I believe so, from the date where they are paid. And they raised the issue and they were saying this is for the first time. And including even the opposition leaders say the same. But we who are the majority of Kenyan, the healthcare workers who are under devolution, this has been the same disease since the devolution. And that is why we normally say, why is it that when we raise the issues that are really bedeviling the people who actually ensure that Kenya, a majority of Kenyan get services, is never appreciated and taken with the same interest that they are supposed, they look into their issues. Because failing for pay for less than 7 days, it was a crisis. But when it is a majority of the Kenyans, they don't see it as a crisis. So we need really to call upon them to really pick up this.
And Mheshimiwa, as you respond to this, the confusion there really is that health is one of the dockets that gets, the most allocation when it comes to budgetary allocations. And, therein, we also speak of health being as a devolved function. And perhaps we hoped that it could work perfect. Well, it's extremely bad at the level of the county, we must acknowledge. With all these CBA agreements, with all these conversations revolving around bettering of health, why is it?
Let me first I want to come to the declarations where Kenya is a signatory. And number one, we have their budget declaration, which is aspirational. Because when you go to that declaration, we don't have a deadline and there are no actions. But, and it's not the only one. When you go to the agricultural sector, you'll find a certain declaration encouraging countries to get there. But each country will have to operate within its own context and the competing needs across the economy at the global, at the national level. We desire to move in that direction. However, the point at which then the different industries should lobby for the increments of their finances in terms of percentage is supposed to happen when we are having the preparation and presentation of the budget policy statement, which comes to Parliament in February. All these industries, including my friend, where was the voice of the health sector during the preparation of the budget policy statement?
That's my question.
Where did we lobby? Who did we engage? And even as we speak about public participation, even as professionals, we are neglecting public participation by failing to know and appreciate the timelines in the process. For example, in the budgeting cycle, that it starts that early. Number two, health is devolved by the Constitution. We participated in the Constitution making. We passed the Constitution. We attended the promulgation. Down the line, we have two options. Make this Constitution work or amend it. Complaining is so easy. But what are we saying? After the promulgation of the new Constitution, we came in and put in the health policy, where the health sector was speaking about the industry and its position at the national level. Since 2014, when the current national health policy was enacted, in there was the body to look into the issues of the healthcare workers. To date, 2023, 9 years later, or is it 10 or 11 years later, 2014 to 2023? We have not, despite the strikes, despite the antagonism, we have failed to get the ministry to operationalize the board that is supposed to look into the issue of health workers. Who do we blame other than us health workers? Because this is a structure in the national policy. We are the people who have the responsibility to get it activated. We have failed. In terms of the salaries delays, yes, it has happened. And this is the question. The fact is, unless we amend the constitution, health remains devolved.
Yes.
Do healthcare workers want to spend their energy? And I'm a healthcare worker. I earn a living from I've earned a living from the health sector. Even now, I am earning a living from the health sector because I'm in the Health Departmental Committee of Health in the Parliament. What do we want to do? Do we want to keep
saying that
agitating without providing a clear direction? If we think health should not be devolved, it should come back to the national government, then as healthcare workers, we must be in the forefront in fighting for amendment to the constitution. If we think we want to make health work within the devolved context, then we must join the voices that are saying devolution must be funded better.
Yeah. That's my question. And I think I asked you that. Do you suppose the first-hand players in the health sector have also failed, in terms of marching into this war of making the health sector a better one?
Yes, I believe so, to some extent. And you see, it because half of the time we are busy politicizing such topics so that we don't really want to listen to the key people talking about issues arising. We don't want to listen to who exactly is fighting who. So once we politicize and we make this as opposition, government, and then we get lost in that conversation. But I want to comment on Mheshimiwa's reaction that where were your voices when the budget policy statement was being read? There's a subtle kind of way that both the national and county governments have perfected in avoiding public participation. Let me start with the counties. The County Government Act, Part 8 to be precise, speaks of how public participation ought to be done. The notice given should be 14 days. Go to the ground, ask. By the time it is published and by the time the actual public participation is meant to happen, the days, it could be even 7 or less. If you're lucky, maybe 10. But it's meant to be 2 weeks. The venues and the communication.
And I think he was concerned as well on what is happening in Nyeri. He says that, well, even in the finance bill, he is worried that perhaps this has not gotten to the people.
Yes. So you find that when, for instance, the advertisement is done in the county government website, how many people have access to bundles all the time so that they can continuously check the county website? I am not too old, but I remember that there was a time you would find the government announcing through a vehicle going around the villages and your area saying that there will be this and this at a certain venue at a certain time. But right now, I don't know where we're heading. We assume that everyone has a smartphone, everyone can access the county government website, everyone can. And again, the Public Finance Management Act, the budget process, has a lot of economic jargon. As we speak, I am very sure that there are people who don't understand, what is this finance bill? They don't understand that this is the tool that will be used to tax. Yeah. So when you don't understand the difference between the budget estimates and the finance bill, like now I've already had people confusing the deadline for finance bill and the budget estimate at the national level.
Yes.
And you know what this means? If you give your finance bill submissions on the 22nd, you are out of
time.
And one of the challenges I've also seen is that the budget process is time bound. And so if, for example, Mwananchi right now in Nyeri wants to go to court and stop, for how long will the court, handle deliberate on that to the conclusion of it so that then the process is not solved? That is one of the challenges we face. And on the ground, you find people willing, but for instance, you get a lot of inequalities and marginalization of, for instance, the PWDs. because the venue, we don't have braille, the country, they can't give. So over and over, you find them discriminated even in the allocations and the provisions, in the plans, in the implementation. And then, of course, Public Procurement Regulatory Authority will publish a report and say the PWDs were never given this allocation, blah, blah. But yes, I think it is about time that the Kenyan citizen took up their proper space of accountability, rise up to the occasion. And when, for instance, a document has been issued 3 days, 7 days, 5 days, 2 days to public participation, we go to that venue and say, you know what, we are not engaging because you're supposed to give us this document 2 weeks ago.
For us to read, internalize.
Yes, we need to protest those timelines, because when you give me a 300-page document, you want me to analyze in 2 days and give you submission.
We will end up saying Baba Mesoma.
Yes.
You know, we'll come to you, Mheshimiwa, shortly, but here we are. It's a whole syndicate, unfortunately, and we have to acknowledge representatives, you know, union representatives who are be entitled or made challenged or prerogative to speak on behalf of the members. There's been a lot of complaints that sometimes, you know, you speak to issues that need to be addressed before you know it, that story is gone. A lot of shortchange. Are you working for your people, or you're working for government, or who exactly are you working with? And how do we restore the confidence in the unions?
I think the structure of engagement is very clear, and we always start, most of the time when people say that we are not speaking is when you do the diplomatic approach. But when now you start going out to address the public, that's when people think that that's when the union are speaking. But we had already started early. I need to go back in 2013 when devolution was coming, and we realized that we bungled the issues of devolution. Because when you look at it, the referral services were left with the national government. But the primary health concept was devolved. As it is, every Mheshimiwa will say, including the governors, that health is devolved. And I ask, what is referral services and where does it begin? So you get to understand it is the whole system. Actually, referral begin from the household. So when you say that this belongs to me and this belongs to who, where do you put the demarcation of these services? So all of it is entangled. And we said that this was the wrong starting, and unfortunately it has been left to take presidency. We really made noise at that time, and we were not listened to. To this extent, even when we have been fighting during the Uhuru time, we raised the issue and even proposing the appropriate action that we need to take to ensure that we can be able to avoid this acrimony and rather the fight between the national government, the county, and also the workers. Because most of the time when we are raising issues, the county will say it's the national government who have not given us money to promote you, to employ, or to do anything. Now, when you raise this issue again, the healthcare workers are looked like we are making noise. But I need to say that we propose that we have a health service commission. And we were very active, including the time of the election. And I participated, I personally, in the KK Kwanza manifesto. And we pushed to ensure that they were able to put health was actually considered as one of the campaign agenda. And if you look at how pregnant that issue is in their manifesto, is very huge. Look at what they promise, that they will establish a health service commission that does not actually, or rather disrupt the counties. It is in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. So when you say that we did not speak, it is already there. And unfortunately, when the president came in office, he proposed a number of things that he need to see as a change to the constitution, to the National Assembly. He left that one out. And I remember when we did the briefing about that issue, he was asking, will I not be looked like I'm fighting the counties? And that is the big issue that we have. Every time you want to speak about the issue which is there, then anyone want to feel that you'll be looked like anti-counties. But we also said that we have seen where the problem is. Then we proposed immediately in December last year. Up to this year, we had issued, including petition to the Senate and the National Assembly, asking them to ask the president to put in place an audit team to look into the issues of health since devolution, so that we can identify where is the issue. Because if we have a central, we can establish a central system that is handling the health system, especially the human aspect management. Then you will find that they will be paid at a central place. There will be nothing like delayed payment.
How best is, for instance, the TSC serving the education?
Yes, that is why you'll see they have never complained about delayed payment.
Okay.
Because the national government always pay between the 20th and actually the next month of on 50th. That's what the law actually provides. But you find at the county level, people goes for a month, even 3 months without a pay. And the statutory deduction are never remitted. So you find these people cannot get health services because even the service they offer, because they are in arrears, the county has never remitted. They are not able to access services.
Okay.
So they are in arrears with the loans. And including KRA, most of the time they never remit. So we said if we have a system that is managing the human resource aspect together, paying them, promoting them, even ensuring that they come with a staffing norm at a central place, we are able to address that. I think, and there is a lie that is being told, and I listened to the president talking about the KHRAC. Whichever the president projected about KHRAC, it has no mandate in terms of what is provided under the Health Act to do that, because he projected like a central body to manage the human resource. But it has only a mandate to ensure that they look into the training aspect of the specialists and actually transfer. But still, when you talk about transfer and sharing of this human resource, they will not have a mandate, because you cannot take my personnel when I'm the employer and say that you are coordinating. How will you do that?
There seems to be a lot of confusion also in the understanding of this. And Mheshimiwa, because time is not on our side, as you respond to him, also speak to this matter. The CS fell short of mentioning names of, what it is that Kibore was talking about, those that are involved in all these menace and corruption activities, and they are not part of the health sector. Perhaps to confirm the speculations that were making rounds upon the axing of the PS by the president.
First, let us put devolution into context. Under the County Government Act, there is established the County Public Service Board with the power to establish and abolish positions. The county executive cannot keep giving the excuse that they have no money if they have not created the positions where they want to promote. Number two, the counties with prediction can be able to forecast the amount of resources available to them based on the accounts, the audited accounts, and their projections for their own revenue generation. And within that basket, they plan current, mid-term, long-term. There is this question that I have posed to my colleagues in the health sector. We need a health services commission. That commission has to be a constitutional commission. Because if then what we want has to be, meaning it must be in the Constitution, we will have to amend the Constitution to provide for it. Is it possible within the existing legal framework to establish a health commission? And my answer is yes. Can we then begin the process? There are commissions that are not in the Constitution. The key thing for me is not whether it's in the Constitution or not. The key thing is the mandate and the responsibility that we assign that Constitution. Contractors involved in projects, suppliers involved in the supplies of health commodities and technologies, they are not health personnel. They are traders.
Linda, maybe can I ask Mheshimiwa? He knows he was in the ministry when we were coming up with the Health Act 2017. Why we were trying to push for the Health Service Commission, by virtue of being pushed away by the legislative bodies, then the ministry went ahead to come up with other bodies that have got no legal binding. Like, let me talk about what we are talking about, the KH-POA and the KH-RAC. Those were just trying to get answers to the question which were there. But indeed, if there was a Health Service Commission on that act, as you say that we do not need a constitutional review to have it, then actually that body will have actually resolved all those. Will not be having the KH-POA, will not be having the KH-RAC on that act. And to that extent, that is why I want Mheshimiwa, because they sit where they have a responsibility to come up with a legislative framework that guide every sector in terms of coordination and how to offer services effectively to Mwananchi, because that is their interest, that they govern us. For those who are offering services, they give us from step 1 to step B, you'll be able to give services. That is what we are only asking our legislative bodies
to push for.
Yes. I agree. In terms of legislation, we have just started the legislative cycle of the 13th Parliament.
Yes.
This is our first budget. This is our first finance bill. And we have time to engage. However, I want to go back to the ministry and the way it is organized. And I hope you have seen the organization structure that the current health CS released in terms of the ministry. Everybody other than the CS and the PS, the head of every directorate within the ministry is a doctor, is a health worker.
Yes.
So how come we have a challenge even when, as health sector key players, we are having a conversation within ourselves in terms of the health policy, which then moves to inform the amendments to the Health Act. As long as we are that then divided, we have a Tower of Babel within the health sector. We had better accept it, we had better confront it, so that then we can start to speak coherently. You know, today, this is my question. Why do we need to have the doctors, the pharmacists, the doctors and dentists being regulated by one council, the pharmacists by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, the clinical officers by the Clinical Officers Board, the medical laboratory technologists by the Medical Laboratory Technologists Board, the physiotherapists by the physiotherapists, yet all of us are operating in the same hospital. None of us is independent.
Interesting question. You know, time is not on our side. I think
that is what I'm saying. In the health sector, we are at Tower of Babel. Can we develop our common language to be able to therefore play our rightful role in terms of the national conversations? That is why the supplies in the health sector are dominated by traders.
As opposed to
guys who are only looking for a profit. They have no business with the health sector. How come in Nyeri, where I am in my county, that not all the health centers or the dispensaries are of the same size, the same shape, the same dimension? In the hospitals, between one health center and the next one, the room where the clinical officer consults, none of them is identical.
Well,
so
the people,
yet we are the
people who...
We must take charge of the health sector as the single biggest stakeholder. Why? Why should a contractor come and provide the specifications of a dispensary, of a health center where we are working?
So Linda, I need to appreciate Mheshimiwa, and I want to say that health is one of the most complex ministry. If you look at the diversity in the Ministry of Health, like the professional in the Ministry of Health are more than 20 professionals. So when you look at it, and once you have a leader who cannot actually involve everyone, be inclusive, then that is where actually you start falling. And what he has said, like the appointment of the one cadre taking up position of directorate to make decision and direct policies for everyone. That is where the fight begins. And it is being created. But we want to say that as healthcare workers, we work as one. And once there is that engagement and involvement, then you can be able to see the synergy that can be able to be created. And we want to appreciate that some counties have done that, but the Minister of Health, by virtue of what the CS has done, and I know there is a lot of protest, including several court cases that have already been taken, and the Health Act has actually demonstrated the same, including court cases. So I do not know how insensitive the CS should be not to listen to the other healthcare workers and listen to one cadre.
All right.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
A majority of us, of this population, cannot afford going abroad for medical services. So we need to take up our position as citizens and ensure we hold this government accountable. We cannot have malaria being treated in Tanzania, yet we have been named as the second best healthcare system in Africa.
It's absurd. Well, Dr. Masanga, watching from London, says, pass my greetings to the Member of Parliament and the other friends. If a nation is not able to look into the question of health, then it has no business. And that is a government has no business being in this, space of power. That's what he says. Honorable Duncan Maina, Member of Parliament, Nyeri Town, and also a member of the Health Committee in Parliament. Asante sana for the great insights. It's a conversation that we continue having, and I'm sure you could be joining us now. You need not to worry. You can always go back on our social media platforms and get to see the conversation that we've had.